I've been running marathons for about 3 years now. It started as a way to get in shape and clear my mind, but it eventually became a passion. I included in my life's highlights the friends I made, the races I completed, the sense of achievement I felt with each finish line crossed. It was my escape, my therapy, and a way to find freedom in every stride. But it was also during this time that everything changed with Sarah, my wife. At first, everything seemed great. We had been married for 5 years, and while we were never the couple that put on a show, we had a solid foundation. But then I started noticing little changes. Sarah was always the supportive partner, the one who cheered me on during races and joined me for training runs. Then, out of nowhere, she became distant. She'd roll her eyes when I discussed my running goals, and those late nights at work became more frequent. I brushed it off as the usual stress from her job as a marketing executive. But deep down, the nagging feeling that something was off refused to go away. The first real sign came when I found her phone buzzing one evening while I was in the shower. I didn't think much of it at first, but when I stepped out, I saw her hurriedly putting her phone down. My curiosity got the better of me and I glanced at the screen. A text popped up, a conversation with someone named Mike. The tone was flirty, filled with emojis and inside jokes I didn't recognize. I felt a cold knot in my stomach, but I tried to convince myself that I was being paranoid. As the weeks went by, the changes in Sarah became more pronounced. She started taking longer to return home, claiming after-work drinks with colleagues. I wanted to believe her, but I couldn't shake the images of her laughing and being intimate with someone else. It was almost as if I was running a marathon through quicksand, moving but sinking deeper into despair. The more I trained, the more I focused on my runs, hopping to outrun my doubts and fears. Then came the day that turned everything upside down. I had a big race coming up, a marathon I had trained for months. I was in the zone, focused on my packing and nutrition, but that day something felt off. I decided to surprise Sarah with dinner after my run to rekindle some of the spark we'd lost. On my way home, I noticed her car parked in front of a bar I had never seen before. My heart sank. I parked a little way down the street and decided to walk to the bar. What I saw through the window confirmed my worst fears. There she was, laughing, her head thrown back in that way I used to adore, sitting across from Mike. They were close, too close for comfort, and my heart raced as anger and betrayal washed over me. I couldn't help but watch, feeling like a spectator in my own disastrous reality. It was as if every step I took felt heavier. With each breath, I could feel my world crumbling. I stormed back to my car, my hands trembling. I was filled with a mix of rage and sadness, my insides twisting into knots. I had trained for this marathon, yet I felt unprepared for what lay ahead. I couldn't run away from this. I had to confront her. I decided to give her until morning to come clean, to face the truth herself. But deep down, I knew that wouldn't happen. I lay awake that night, replaying the scene in my mind. It felt surreal, as if I was living in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I was angry, and more importantly, I was hurt. I remembered our vows, the promises we made, how we talked about growing old together. All of that felt shattered. I was filled with a sense of urgency, a need to confront her, to demand answers. The next morning, I had this pit in my stomach as I prepared for what I knew would be the hardest conversation of my life. This wasn't just about betrayal, it was about the life we built together. As I stood in the kitchen, sipping my coffee, I rehearsed what I would say. I wanted to remain calm, but I could already feel the storm brewing inside me. When Sarah finally woke up, she seemed unfazed, her usual morning routine in full swing. I knew I had to pick my moment carefully. As she poured herself a cup of coffee, I took a deep breath and blurted, "We need to talk." Her head snapped towards me, a flicker of concern crossing her features. I could see she sensed the gravity of the moment. I couldn't waste any more time dancing around the issue. I laid it all out, the texts, the night at the bar, everything. I watched her face shift from shock to denial and then to cold indifference. "What are you talking about?" she scoffed. "You're being ridiculous. You're just paranoid because you're training a lot and I'm busy with work. You can't seriously think I would cheat on you." Her voice dripped with a mix of anger and disbelief, and my heart sank further. The lies poured out of her like a river, and I felt anger bubbling beneath the surface. I couldn't believe the audacity, the sheer dismissal of my feelings. I pressed her further, demanding the truth, but her excuses only fueled my rage. It was like a dam breaking. I unleashed everything I felt, the hurt, the betrayal, and the confusion. I was desperate for honesty, for something real, and instead I got empty words. The confrontation reached a boiling point when I finally yelled, "You're cheating on me, and you can't even admit it." For a moment, silence hung in the air like a heavy fog. I could see the reality settling in on her face, the realization that I really knew what was happening. That's when I knew that this wasn't just about her betrayal, it was about the future of our marriage. The silence stretched between us, thick and suffocating. I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, and below me lay the jagged rocks of my marriage, broken, shattered, and irreparable. Sarah's face twisted in a mixture of anger and disbelief, and I could see her trying to formulate a response, but nothing came. It was as if the weight of her lies finally crashed down on her. "Look," she said finally, her voice shaky but defensive. "I didn't want you to find out this way. It's not what you think." The way she said it made my blood boil even more. I was consumed by a mix of rage and heartbreak, and I couldn't hold back any longer. "Not what I think. I saw you with him, Sarah." "You think I'm that naive?" I shouted, my voice echoing in the emptiness of our kitchen. I had never raised my voice at her before, but in that moment all the hurt came rushing out. "You've been lying to me, and all those late nights at work. It was him, wasn't it?" She crossed her arms defensively, that familiar biting tone creeping back into her voice. "You don't know what you're talking about. It was just a dinner. I was telling you the truth. You're being dramatic." "Dramatic? You think this is dramatic?" I shot back, feeling the heat radiating off my skin. "I'm not being dramatic, I'm being betrayed. You've turned our marriage into a joke." The pain pierced through my anger, and I took a moment to breathe, feeling my world collapse around me, the pieces scattering like leaves in a storm. There was something about her demeanor that shifted then. She dropped the defensive act for a moment, and I could see a flicker of remorse, or maybe it was fear. "I didn't mean for it to happen, okay? I was lonely. You were always training, and I felt abandoned." Mike was just someone who listened. "I didn't want to hurt you." Her voice cracked, and a part of me wanted to feel sorry for her, but all I could feel was rage. "Someone who listened." I yelled, incredulous. "So you thought it was okay to sleep with him because I was away? You think that justifies your actions?" The anger was boiling over, but underneath it all I felt a deep sadness creeping in. "What about our life, Sarah? What about us?" Her expression shifted again, and for a moment I thought she might finally understand. Instead, she shifted back to defensiveness. "Maybe you should have thought about that before you got obsessed with running. I needed you, and you weren't there." It felt like she was throwing my dedication back in my face, twisting my passion into a weapon against me. My heart sank as I realized she wasn't taking any responsibility for her actions. She had turned our love into a battlefield, and I couldn't fight her anymore. In that moment, I felt an overwhelming sense of clarity. I had been pouring my heart and soul into my marathons, into my training, and somehow I had let her slip away. I allowed her to twist my passion into a weakness I couldn't bear. The thought of being trapped in a marriage built on lies and betrayal. "Maybe you're right," I said, my voice low but steady. "Maybe I was focused on the wrong things, but that doesn't give you the right to destroy what we built together. You made that choice, not me." I watched as her face fell, and I could see the realization that things were unraveling. "I don't want this to be the end," she said, her voice softer now, almost pleading. "Can't we fix this?" "Fix this?" I echoed, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. "How do you fix betrayal? How do you fix the trust that's been shattered?" I shook my head, feeling a wave of despair wash over me. "I don't even know who you are anymore. The woman I loved wouldn't have done this." Her eyes glistened with tears, but I was past the point of feeling sorry for her. I needed to look out for myself now. The emotional roller coaster was exhausting, and I was tired of being hurt. I took a deep breath and made my decision. "I can't keep living like this, Sarah. I deserve better than this dishonesty. I need to think about what I want, and right now it doesn't include you." The finality of my words hung in the air, heavy and oppressive. She opened her mouth to protest, but I raised my hand, stopping her. "No more excuses. I can't do this anymore." With that, I turned and walked out of the kitchen, leaving her standing there, her world crumbling just as mine had. As I stepped out into the fresh morning air, I felt a strange mix of relief and sorrow. I was terrified of the future, of what it meant to go on without her. I had invested so much into our life together, yet here I was, ready to break free. My heart ached, but I felt a flicker of hope, a small light in the distance. I remembered my training, the countless hours spent running, the way it felt to push through pain and find strength. This was my marathon, but this time I was running towards freedom. I needed to discover who I was outside of our marriage, to reclaim my life bit by bit. As I laced up my running shoes, I felt a rush of determination. Every step I took would measure my freedom, my journey to healing. It wouldn't be easy, but I was ready to embrace the challenge. I had hit rock bottom, but I knew that I could rise again. I was ready to run, not just away from the pain, but toward a better life. And that was where my journey truly began. I spent the next few days in a whirlwind of emotions. The initial shock of confronting Sarah had worn off, replaced with a heavy reality that felt both freeing and suffocating. I needed to distract myself, to get out of my head, so I threw myself into my running. I logged miles every day, pushing my limits further and further. Each step felt like a cathartic release of the pain, the anger, and the betrayal I had endured. The mornings were the hardest. I would wake up and feel the absence of Sarah beside me, the quiet echo of our life together. I tried not to think about what had happened, but the memories clawed at me. I replayed moments of our marriage in my mind, our first dates, vacations, and even the mundane little things that had added up to years of partnership. It all felt so tainted now. I started questioning everything. Was any of it real? Had I been blind to her unhappiness? Or had I been the one who let everything slip away while I chased my goals? But as I ran, the physical exertion became my sanctuary. I found solace in the rhythm of my feet hitting the pavement, the beat of my heart matching the tempo. I could feel the world around me melting away, the sun rising and setting with each mile I conquered. I bumped into fellow runners who had become my friends. I shared laughs, training tips, and the occasional post-run beer, but each time I felt a pang of loneliness. I wanted to reach out to share my burden, but the shame and embarrassment held me back. One evening, I was running through a neighborhood I used to pass with Sarah. It was a route that had been familiar, filled with memories of laughing, hand-holding, and the sweet innocence of love. But now it felt foreign, filled with ghosts of a relationship that was no longer mine. I felt a mix of anger and sadness swirl within me. The sight of a couple walking hand in hand made me want to scream. Why did they get to have that while I was left picking up the pieces? That's when I decided to join a local running group. I needed to meet new people, to surround myself with fresh faces and fresh starts. I found a group that gathered at a nearby park every Saturday morning. The first time I showed up, I felt a rush of anxiety. My heart raced, not from running but from the fear of opening up to strangers. But as I mingled with the group, sharing stories about our races and training routines, I felt a small spark of excitement for the first time in ages. Among them was a woman named Jessica, a fellow marathon enthusiast who had an infectious energy. She was vivacious and full of life, with a warmth that drew people in. She was a few years younger than me, but her passion for running matched my own. We clicked almost immediately, exchanging stories about our favorite races and our personal bests. For the first time, I felt a connection that wasn't tainted by betrayal. As the weeks passed, I found myself looking forward to our Saturday runs. Jessica quickly became a friend I could rely on, someone I could talk to without the weight of my past hanging over me. She didn't pry into my life, but she had a way of making me feel comfortable enough to share snippets of my struggles. I told her about my love for running, how it had been my escape, but I carefully avoided mentioning Sarah. One evening, after a particularly long run, Jessica and I grabbed smoothies from a nearby cafe. We sat outside, basking in the late afternoon sun. As we chatted, I felt the burden of my past begin to lift. She shared her own heartbreak, a messy breakup that had left her jaded. There was an understanding between us, a bond formed from shared pain and resilience. "Life can be rough sometimes, can't it?" she said, her eyes sparkling with sincerity. "But I think the best way to heal is to keep moving forward, right? Just like in running." Her words resonated with me. They echoed the realization I had made during my runs, that I had the power to redefine my life, to break free from the chains of my past. I didn't need to dwell on what had happened with Sarah. I needed to embrace the possibility of something new, something better. As we parted ways that evening, I felt a flutter of hope. The world around me seemed brighter, and for the first time since my confrontation with Sarah, I felt like I was slowly regaining control of my life. I was still on a journey of healing, but now I had a companion in that journey, someone who understood the importance of moving forward. But I still grappled with the decision I had made. I knew I needed to have a serious conversation with Sarah about our future. It felt like an inescapable confrontation lingering on the horizon. I could no longer keep pushing it aside. The divorce papers were still untouched, sitting in a drawer as a reminder of the finality that was coming. I kept thinking about the life I wanted to build, one that didn't include her betrayal, but also one that didn't hold on to resentment. I spent the next week preparing for that conversation. I needed clarity, and I needed to express my feelings without anger clouding my words. I wanted closure, and I wanted to make it clear that I was done being the victim of her choices. That Friday evening, I called Sarah. My heart raced as I asked her to meet me at our favorite park, the same place we used to run together. It felt symbolic, as if I was reclaiming a piece of my past while facing the truth of my present. She agreed, and I could hear the uncertainty in her voice. When we met, the tension in the air was palpable. I could see the remnants of the woman I loved, the smile, the laugh, but there was a distance between us now. It was like standing on opposing sides of a chasm, both longing for connection but knowing there was no way to bridge it. "Hey," she said softly, her eyes searching mine for something I wasn't sure I could give. "Hey," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. "We need to talk." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of what I was about to say. I needed to be honest, not just for her but for myself. I had to put an end to this cycle of hurt and find my own way forward. I can't keep pretending everything is fine, I started, my voice firm. What happened between us, it destroyed a part of me. I didn't deserve the lies, the betrayal. We've been through a lot, but I can't hold on to this hurt anymore. I watched her expression shift, the realization sinking in. "I'm sorry," she whispered, tears glistening in her eyes. "I didn't mean for it to happen. I was lost and I didn't know how to reach out to you." Lost. You think that justifies what you did? I felt the anger bubbling up again, but I forced myself to stay calm. "You broke my trust, Sarah. I can't rebuild what's been broken. I need to let you go." The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. I saw the pain etched across her face, and for a moment I felt a flicker of sympathy. But then I remembered the betrayal, the loneliness I had endured for months. "I understand if you hate me," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't hate you," I replied, surprising myself. "But I can't carry this burden anymore. It's time for both of us to find our own paths." With that, I knew I had made the right decision. It was painful, but I felt a sense of release. I didn't need to linger in the past. I had my running, my friends, and my newfound freedom. And as I stood there watching her fade away, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders, like every step I had taken in the last few weeks had led me to this very moment. I was finally ready to run toward my own life. After my conversation with Sarah, I felt a profound mix of relief and determination. Breaking the final ties felt like shedding an old skin, painful yet freeing. I walked away from that park with a new sense of purpose, ready to chase not just my goals in running, but my goals in life. I was no longer defined by my past or by the betrayal that had shaken my world. In the weeks that followed, I threw myself into my training even harder. I set ambitious goals for myself, committing to a marathon that was only a few months away. The thought of crossing that finish line became a beacon of hope for me. I wanted to prove to myself that I could overcome this chapter of my life, that I could emerge stronger on the other side. I continued to meet Jessica and the running group every week, and she quickly became a constant in my life. We would share not only our training but also bits of our lives, dreams, and fears. She listened without judgment, and I found myself opening up to her in a way I hadn't anticipated. It felt so refreshing to connect with someone who wasn't tied to my past, someone who didn't know the heartbreak I had just endured. One evening after a particularly grueling run, Jessica suggested we grab dinner together. It was a casual invitation, but for the first time in a long while, I felt a flutter of excitement. I hadn't gone out on a date since my split with Sarah, and the thought of being around someone so vibrant and alive was thrilling. As we sat at a local diner, sharing stories and laughing over plates of fries and milkshakes, I felt a warmth spreading through me, something I hadn't felt in ages. Jessica's laughter was infectious, and I found myself genuinely enjoying the moment. It was a stark contrast to the heaviness of my past. "Do you ever think about what you want in the future?" Jessica asked, her eyes shining with curiosity. I paused for a moment, the question catching me off guard. Honestly, I've been so focused on healing from my last relationship that I haven't even let myself think about it. But now I guess I'm starting to envision a future where I'm happy, where I can run without the weight of betrayal dragging me down. She nodded, her expression thoughtful. "That's a great start. I think once you clear out the negativity, you can create space for something new and exciting." That night, as I lay in bed, I couldn't help but think about what Jessica had said. The idea of a new beginning was exhilarating yet daunting. I had been so consumed with my resentment toward Sarah that I had neglected to consider what I truly wanted. The next day, I went for a long run, one of those runs where you lose track of time and let your mind wander. I took in the fresh air, the rhythm of my feet hitting the ground, and allowed myself to dream. What if I dedicated my life to running? What if I pursued coaching or even started my own running group? I had experience after all, and I loved sharing that passion with others. The thought lit a fire in me. As I continued training, I started reaching out to local schools and community centers to see if they would be interested in hosting running clinics. I wanted to give back, to help others find the same joy I had found in running. It felt like a purpose beyond my pain, and I needed that. In the midst of this new journey, I found myself growing closer to Jessica. We began spending more time together outside of running. We went hiking, attended local races, and even started cooking together, her culinary skills far exceeding mine. Each moment was filled with laughter and camaraderie, and I felt the walls I had built around my heart begin to crumble. One evening, after a particularly long day, we sat in her living room, a bowl of popcorn between us as we watched an old running documentary. I couldn't help but notice how beautiful she looked. In the soft glow of the TV light, her laughter infectious as we shared anecdotes about our running journeys. As the credits rolled, I turned to her, feeling a rush of emotion. "You've really changed my life, you know that. I don't think I would have been able to face my past like I have without you." Her smile was genuine, and I could see the warmth in her eyes. "You did that all on your own. I'm just here to cheer you on." In that moment, I felt something shift between us, an unspoken connection that hung heavy in the air. I hesitated, but instinct drove me forward. "I think I'm ready to explore something new with you if you're open to it." Jessica's eyes widened slightly, and a slow smile spread across her face. "I'd like that," she replied softly, her voice almost a whisper. We leaned in closer, and in that moment, as our lips met, I felt a wave of warmth wash over me. It was different from anything I had experienced with Sarah. It felt pure, untainted by betrayal. It was the promise of new beginnings, of healing, and of moving forward. As our relationship blossomed, I found it easier to let go of the anger I held toward Sarah. I realized that clinging to resentment only kept me anchored to the past. Each mile I ran, each moment I spent with Jessica, felt like a step closer to embracing my new life. But I still needed to confront some unfinished business. I had to face Sarah one last time to clear the air completely, to ensure there were no lingering shadows of our past that could cloud my future. I decided to invite her to meet me at the same park where we had the initial confrontation. My heart raced as I approached the bench where we once sat so many times, filled with laughter and dreams of the future. Now it felt like a place of reckoning. When I saw Sarah sitting there, I felt the familiar knot in my stomach. She looked different, more vulnerable and less guarded than before. I could see the weight of regret etched in her features, and for a brief moment I felt a pang of sympathy. "Thanks for meeting me," I said, taking a seat next to her. "Of course," she replied, her voice soft. I didn't know how to reach out after everything. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. The sincerity in her tone struck me. "I appreciate that," I replied, choosing my words carefully. "I've been doing a lot of soul-searching since we last talked. I've realized that I can't keep holding on to the anger. It's only been hurting me." Sarah nodded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I've been working on myself too. I know I messed up and I regret it every day. I never wanted to hurt you." "I know," I said, my heart softening just a touch, "but it happened. It's part of our story now. I think it's important for both of us to accept that and move on." She looked at me and I could see that she was processing my words. "I want you to be happy, you know. You deserve that." "Thank you," I replied, feeling the tension begin to lift. "I'm ready to let go of what happened between us. I hope you can find your happiness too." We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of closure settling around us. It was bittersweet, but I felt a surge of relief coursing through me. As I stood to leave, I took one last look at her. "I wish you well, Sarah, truly." "Goodbye and thank you for understanding," she said, a small smile breaking through her tears. I walked away from that park lighter somehow, knowing I had closed that chapter of my life. As I stepped off the path and back onto the pavement, the steady rhythm of my feet kicking up the dust beneath me felt like a promise. I was no longer defined by my past. I was running toward a future filled with hope, possibility, and the embrace of new love. With each mile I logged, I felt stronger. I was a marathon runner, and this was my race, one that I was determined to win. The weeks rolled by quickly, and with each passing day, I felt more aligned with my newfound purpose. My training was going exceptionally well, and the marathon I had signed up for was just around the corner. I had transformed my running routine, integrating speed workouts and long runs with a focus on endurance. It felt exhilarating to push my limits while knowing I was doing it for myself, no longer tied down by the weight of betrayal or lingering heartache. Jessica and I grew closer, spending weekends together exploring trails and discussing our goals. She was becoming my confidant, the person I could share my dreams with without the shadows of my past creeping in. One evening, after a particularly long run, we sat on her porch, sipping iced tea as the sun began to set. "I can hardly believe how far you've come in such a short time," she said, her eyes sparkling with admiration. "You've taken this whole experience and turned it into something beautiful." I chuckled softly, feeling a warmth spread through me at her words. "Honestly, it's been a journey. I thought I was going to drown in my pain, but I've learned to swim instead. And having you by my side has made all the difference." Her smile widened, and I felt a flutter in my chest. I had grown to care for her deeply, but I was still cautious, still feeling my way through this new relationship, afraid to rush headlong into something that could end in heartbreak. But as I looked into her eyes, I couldn't help but feel a sense of hope. As marathon day approached, I became increasingly focused. I had set a goal to not only finish the race but to achieve a personal best. I wanted to prove to myself that I was capable of rising above the challenges I had faced. I dedicated my training to this goal, pushing myself through the pain and fatigue. The morning of the marathon arrived, and the excitement buzzed in the air. As I stood at the starting line, surrounded by thousands of fellow runners, I felt a rush of adrenaline. The energy was electric, and I could feel my heart pounding in time with the rhythm of the moment. I looked around at the faces of people who, like me, were ready to tackle this challenge head-on. Jessica was there too, standing beside me, her eyes filled with encouragement. "You've got this. Just remember to pace yourself," she shouted over the noise of the crowd. I nodded, feeling her support wash over me like a warm blanket. As the race began, I settled into my pace, focusing on my breath and the rhythm of my feet. I could feel the miles ticking away beneath me, each one a testament to my hard work and resilience. The early miles flew by, and I found myself lost in the joy of running, the thrill of it surging through my veins. Around the halfway point, I spotted Jessica on the sidelines, cheering me on with a sign she had made. "Run like the wind." It read, and I couldn't help but smile at her enthusiasm. The encouragement from her made all the difference, propelling me forward. As I approached the last few miles, Fatigue began to creep in, but I pushed through, reminding myself of all I had overcome. I thought of the conversations I had with Jessica, the support I found in my running community, and the freedom I had discovered within myself. I had transformed the pain of my past into fuel for my future, and that thought alone drove me onward. With the finish line in sight, I felt an overwhelming surge of emotion. I pushed through the final stretch, my legs burning but my spirit soaring. As I crossed the finish line, I raised my arms in triumph, feeling the exhilaration wash over me. I had done it. I had not only completed the marathon but had achieved a personal best, something I had only dreamed of just months before. As I caught my breath, I looked around for Jessica, and when I found her, she was rushing toward me with joy radiating from her face. "You did it, I knew you could," she exclaimed, her excitement infectious. In that moment, I pulled her into a hug, feeling grateful for her unwavering support. "Thank you for being there for me," I said, my voice filled with emotion. "Are you kidding? You did all the hard work. I just got to cheer for you," she replied, grinning from ear to ear. Later that day, as we celebrated my achievement with friends, I reflected on how far I had come since that painful moment of confrontation with Sarah. I had transformed not just my running but my entire mindset. I had become someone who embraced challenges rather than shying away from them. Jessica and I continued to grow closer after the marathon. We began discussing more future plans, like traveling to different races together and exploring new trails. Each shared moment deepened our connection, and I felt myself falling for her in a way I hadn't thought possible after Sarah. But I still had lingering doubts, a shadow of fear that clung to me, whispering reminders of my past and the possibility of getting hurt again. I wanted to share my feelings with Jessica but was hesitant. I didn't want to rush things or scare her away with the weight of my previous experiences. One evening, as we were enjoying a quiet dinner at her place, I decided it was time to open up. "Jessica, there's something I've been meaning to talk to you about," I began, my heart racing. She looked at me, curiosity in her eyes. "What's on your mind?" "I just want to be honest about where I'm at. After everything that happened with Sarah, I've been hesitant to fully embrace this new relationship. You mean a lot to me and I don't want to let my past hold me back, but I find myself getting scared." Her expression softened and she reached across the table to take my hand. "I understand. It's okay to be scared. We all have our pasts and it can be hard to break free from them. Just know that I'm not going anywhere. I genuinely care about you and I want to see where this goes." Her words settled my racing heart and I felt a weight lift. "Thank you for being so understanding. I want to take this step by step and I really appreciate your patience." "Step by step sounds perfect to me," she replied, her smile reassuring me. As we continued to grow closer, I found comfort in the idea of moving forward together. I had learned to embrace the marathon of life, to find strength in my struggles, and to appreciate the beautiful moments along the way. Each day felt like a new beginning, filled with possibility and hope. In the months that followed, Jessica and I built a relationship grounded in trust and understanding. I felt lighter, free from the chains of my past, and I was excited about the journey ahead. I was no longer running away from heartbreak. I was running toward a better life, one filled with love, adventure, and a newfound sense of self. But as I had learned through my running, every marathon has its challenges, and I knew that life would throw more obstacles my way. I was ready to face them one step at a time, and I knew that Jessica would be right there beside me, cheering me on every mile of the journey. And in that realization, I finally understood that I had won, not just the race, but my life back. As the seasons changed, so did my life. The days grew longer with the warmth of summer, and I found myself not only embracing my running, but also embracing a new chapter filled with love and hope. Jessica and I began to plan our future together, setting goals not only for races, but for the life we wanted to create. We talked about traveling to marathons across the country, exploring new trails, and even considering the idea of moving in together. The thought of building a life with her filled me with excitement. I had learned to trust again, to open my heart to the possibility of love without the shadow of my past lurking behind me. Each moment we spent together reinforced the idea that I had made the right choice in letting go of the pain and moving toward the light. One weekend, we decided to sign up for a local half marathon together. It was a fun run, less pressure than the marathons I had trained for, but it felt like a perfect opportunity to celebrate how far we had come. I felt an electric energy as we lined up at the start, the vibrant atmosphere buzzing with anticipation. As we crossed the finish line hand in hand, grinning like kids, I couldn't help but reflect on how much I had grown. This wasn't just a race. It was a testament to the resilience I had cultivated over the past year. I thought of the heartbreak, the betrayal, and the journey toward healing. Every mile was a reminder of the freedom I had fought for and the love I had found in the most unexpected of places. That evening, as we celebrated our accomplishment with a group of friends at a local pub, I felt an overwhelming gratitude for Jessica. She had become my partner in every sense of the word, supporting me during tough training sessions, celebrating my victories, and simply being there as a friend when I needed it most. "Hey, can I say something?" I raised my glass, catching everyone's attention. "I just want to take a moment to acknowledge how far I've come this past year. To all the struggles, heartbreak, and challenges that led me here, and to the amazing people who supported me along the way, especially Jessica." Everyone cheered, but Jessica's eyes sparkled with warmth and pride. "You've worked so hard, and you deserve every bit of this joy," she said, beaming. Feeling emboldened, I continued. "I used to think I was defined by my past and the mistakes of my marriage. But now I realize those experiences have shaped me into who I am today, a stronger person who knows the value of love and support." After the laughter and cheers quieted down, I took a deep breath, and I'm ready to embrace whatever comes next together. Jessica looked at me, her eyes widening slightly. In that moment, I knew I needed to express my feelings fully. "I want you to know that I deeply care for you, Jessica. You've brought so much happiness back into my life, and I'm excited for what's ahead for us." As I spoke, I felt a sense of vulnerability but also empowerment. It was time to let go of any remaining fear. I was ready to embrace love wholeheartedly. Her smile widened and she reached for my hand. "I feel the same way, and I'm excited about our future too. We're a team, and I can't wait to see where this journey takes us." The rest of the night was filled with laughter and shared stories, but my heart was firmly planted in that moment of connection. It was clear to me that I had come full circle. I had transformed the pain of my past into a foundation for a brighter future. As summer transitioned into fall, I found myself immersed in the running community, organizing clinics and training sessions for aspiring runners. I was passionate about sharing my journey and helping others discover the joy of running. I wanted to inspire those who felt lost, just as I had once been. Jessica often joined me in these endeavors, and together we created a welcoming environment where people could find their love for running. It felt fulfilling to channel my energy into helping others, and it solidified the sense of purpose I had found after my breakup. One crisp autumn day, as I was coaching a group at the park, a familiar face appeared in the crowd. It was Sarah. My heart skipped a beat as I watched her approach. It had been months since I had seen her, and I felt a rush of emotion swirl inside me: surprise, apprehension, and even a touch of curiosity. "Hey," she said cautiously, her voice soft as she approached. "I hope it's okay that I'm here. I came to see what you've been up to." I took a moment to process her presence. "Of course. It's good to see you," I replied, genuinely surprised at how calm I felt. "I wanted to apologize again," she said, her expression earnest. "I've been doing a lot of reflecting and I realize how much I hurt you. I've been working on myself, trying to be a better person." I nodded, acknowledging her vulnerability. "Thank you for saying that. I've also done a lot of reflecting. I've learned that holding onto anger only weighs me down. I wish you well in your journey." Her eyes softened, and for the first time since our confrontation, I felt a sense of closure. I understood that our past would always be a part of my story, but it no longer defined me. I had moved on, and now I could look back without resentment. As Sarah walked away, I felt a sense of release, like a weight had been lifted. I turned back to my group where Jessica was waiting, her eyes filled with concern. Are you okay? I smiled, feeling lighter than ever. I really am. With that sense of closure, I embraced the life in front of me, one filled with running, love, and a vibrant future. I had chosen to run toward a better life, and every step I took reinforced that freedom. As the sun set on another beautiful day, I knew I was exactly where I was meant to be, surrounded by the people who mattered most. I had learned that life is a marathon, not a sprint, and I was ready to tackle whatever challenges lay ahead with endurance, love, and an unwavering spirit. And with each mile I ran, I felt more alive than ever.